the Fellows 2015 program launch webinar. My name is Shoaib Sufi and I'm the Community Manager at the Software Sustainability Institute. All right, some practicalities which we've already covered, so if you experience any problem, please click that you need assistance, which is really the raising of the hand on the smiley face. Email Tim Parkinson, that's his email address, t.parkinson@software.ac.uk, and he'll try and fix this without disrupting the webinar too much. Or if you're on Skype, he could talk to you over Skype. Tim, if you want to put in your Skype details, you can. Please type in your questions in the chat box. Only really the presenters will be given audio access. Again, at Q&A time, if you want to ask an audio-based question, because it's a bit complicated, we could add you in as audio, but we'll see. Okay, as I said before, we'll be recording the webinar, and that's just our Twitter handle for those of you who for information. So the aims of this webinar are to introduce the Software Sustainability Institute generally, what our general aims are, what we're about, and the fellowship program specifically, covering some of the highlights, the aspects of what the Fellows of 2014, the existing Fellows, have done, and also the program for 2015 and how that'll operate and what we're looking for. There'll also be some presentations by the Fellows, a number of the Fellows, talking about their experiences, and we're here to answer your questions and to clarify anything also which is not clear. This is this afternoon's agenda. We're in the setup and welcome at the moment. Then I'll be giving a brief introduction to the Software Sustainability Institute, for those of you who don't know about the Institute. I'll be detailing some aspects of the Fellowship 2014 program, and some of that is relevant also to an application that you might want to make to the 2015 program to see what others have done. We'll get Fellows' experiences. We'll have 4 of the Fellows. Unfortunately, Stuart Dunn couldn't make it today. But he will be writing an article for us, so that should be up on the website hopefully next week. Then I'll be talking about the Fellowship Program 2015, and then we'll have the panel Q&A. Okay. I apologise for getting some of the spellings and the names wrong there. Okay, so. Okay, so we'll start with an introduction to the Software Sustainability Institute. We are supported by EPSRC. We have additional project funding from some of the other research councils also. Okay, so software is pervasive in research. Whether it's genomics, whether it's climate modeling, whether it's social network analysis, whether it's looking at traffic management, whether it's 3D micro CT systems, whether it's protein folding, software is everywhere. It's ubiquitous in lots of different research domains, in the sciences and in the humanities also. There's a very famous article from Nature, which was called "Computational Science Error: Why Scientific Computing Does Not Compute," and it was Joe Haney et al. And they were discussing the use of software by scientists. And this was, you have to bear in mind that this was done in 2010, so some of these numbers may have changed, probably making it even more important for them to develop software skills. So anyway, 45% of scientists said they spent more time developing software than 5 years previously. 38% spent 1/5 of their time developing software. That's quite a lot of time. And only under half of them said they had a good understanding of software testing. And only 34% of scientists thought that formal training in software was important. Obviously, there's a problem here, and the nature of the problem is that better quality software produces better quality results, or more reliable results, or more reproducible results. So this is where the Software Sustainability Institute fits in. We have a mantra: better software, better research. Yes, there is a t-shirt. You can go on the website and order it if you wish. So we're a national facility. We're a cross-institutional facility based out of Manchester, Southampton, Oxford, and Edinburgh. We believe that software, reaches boundaries in its development. Either you need to translate it to a new platform, or you need to scale it with different sizes of data, or it's not tested correctly, or there's no natural community for it. And this is some of the areas where we help with interventions. We also, by providing expertise and services to help people get to that next stage. Additionally, so we actually do help in the process of making software better. Additionally, we run programs like the fellowship program, events like workshops, and try to put out policies and tools to help support the community who are developing software for research and in research, and also the people who use research software. So the SSI is organized across a number of different sites, as I mentioned, and we have a community engagement theme that's led by myself. We have a research software theme, which is led by Steve Crouch. That's very much the group that helps other software researchers. We have a policy theme and publicity theme led by Simon Hetrick, who's also our deputy director, and they have a strong overview of the website. The website is www.software.ac.uk, as you see in the top right-hand corner of the slides. Currently we get about 16,000 unique hits a month, which is a doubling in the last 6-7 months of the traffic that we get. So we are getting the website is getting more popular. We also have a training lead in Alexandra Pavlik, who looks after software carpentry and other aspects. I'll touch on these when I talk a bit more about the fellowship. Okay, so we have a number of different people who are working with us, a number of different institutions, a number of different projects, and these are the people who have worked with us recently. So we have quite a wide in terms of the sciences and the humanities. And a breadth of experience, and we hope that this experience is attractive to the people applying for fellowship, that they can have a two-way kind of benefit for each other from your experiences and from our experiences, and in supporting you, those of you who apply. Okay, I'm now going to give a brief overview. Brief-ish overview of the fellowship program 2014. Can I ask any of the presenters even who are not speaking at the moment, is it okay if you just mute? I heard a keyboard. Okay, so the SSI Fellowship 2014. So here are the fellows which were announced early in December 13. There were 16 fellows, and we had quite a reasonable split between male and female. There were 10 males, 6 females. And this EML, this is to do with career stage. So the early career researchers, middle career, senior career. So we have quite a spread of people in different career stages. So if you're a PhD student and you're thinking of applying, you shouldn't be scared off. Or if you're a more senior person and thinking this all sounds a bit junior, then we also have things for you, and we have other senior fellows as well. And then they are managed by a series of handlers. So how it works is that when the fellows win their award, they don't just get the money, they make a case for accessing that money, and it's quite a lightweight process where they ask, where they say they want to run a workshop or they want to attend a particular conference, and they make a case for that, and then the handlers look at look at the request. There's no requests this year which have been denied. Sometimes we ask for more clarification, but this is quite a light touch process, and more so the process of handling is there to allow us to say, well, if you're going to do this, maybe you need to speak to this other person, or maybe have you thought of inviting this person? So it's to trying to help with your process. I mean, obviously under no obligation to accept that help, but most of the fellows do. They're in the fellows, like I said, they're apart from there's a male-female split and there's also different career stages, but they're in lots of different areas in the biological sciences, chemistry, geo, the humanities, policy, and also the software itself and infrastructure. So you tend to get a set of fellows which are researchers who are more focused on the research and use software, and also on the other side, people who write software tools for researchers, or people who actually do the coding that helps with the analysis for a research team. So we serve the broad spectrum between those two. So like I said, we have a website, and on the SSI website you can go into and search, and if you search for the word fellow, you'll see all the contributions from the fellows. The fellows have to provide certain types of material, like intelligence or information reports from conferences that they attend, but they also write blog posts. Sometimes they'll just be like writing a blog post about something that's happening in their domain, promoting their workshop, something they care about, or maybe something that they want to know more about, and there's a route to getting that published on the website. The website's quite popular, as I mentioned, and we also new articles are also tweeted out on Twitter, and we have over 2,500 Twitter followers, so they do have some impact. In regards to impact, it's not a fellow article, but one of the articles by the research software team is actually being pushed by SourceForge itself as one of the only guides to helping you set up a SourceForge project. I know lots of people are perhaps not using SourceForge, but people are moving more towards GitHub, for example. But the fact that one of the big providers is pointing towards us shows you how they consider the types of guides that we put out as being of good quality. As a fellow, the fellows attend conferences and workshops, and one of the things that they put out is conference intelligence, where they talk about what the highlights were from the conferences, in terms of the scientific themes from the conferences, in terms of the software that people were speaking about, and also perhaps some of the follow-up actions that the Institute might take. We do help in preparation with some of these workshops. For example, this joint model data workshop, we were asked, there was an idea from fellow Leanne Wake, who will be joining us later on at 4 p.m. To give a presentation, and she was very much interested in getting up to speed on the best practice in putting together architectures, or how do you actually promote. She wanted to make data more available of sea level change in a particular geological era. So she was interested in how she should structure that, what the barriers to that might be. By consulting with us, we feel that she got into a very good presentation and a very good plan as to how to proceed. One of the other things that the fellows are involved with is training. A lot of them have a particular interest and focus in training. One of the things that the Institute is quite involved in is the software carpentry movement. And the software carpentry movement itself it's not focused on turning novices into experts, but it's focused on turning some people who have some basic computational understanding, or they might have used some other computational tools, IDEs, for example, MATLAB, for example, and to try to really make them more competent in the use of other tools in automation, programming, and and testing and version control to really help improve the quality of their software and reproducibility of their software. So it's normally very oversubscribed, and it's quite cheap to run, although you need to budget for quite a bit of coffee. So there were 8 events this year, which were, although this is a global thing really, but in terms of in Europe, and especially in the UK, the SSI looks after software carpentry events and helps facilitate them. There were 8 events this year, and there are 3 more planned. There are more planned in 2015. Not all of them were done by fellows, but in terms of organising and instructing at boot camps, there was a Git day at Manchester by Mike Croucher. You might not have seen Mike Croucher on the list of fellows, but he was a fellow from the previous year. I'll talk about that shortly in terms of the how we deal with fellows from previous years. There's also Phil Fowler in software. He was very interested in attending the software carpentry instructor training, which he did. And there's also more software carpentry training in October. This is more about how do you become a trainer? How do you train people? And it's really about educational practices as opposed to the nuts and bolts of taking people through a particular topic. So it is quite interesting if you're an academic who maybe you just started your teaching career, or you're doing a PhD and you want to know more about teaching. Doing this course can also help you with your teaching development. Okay. Workshops. The workshops have become more and more of a feature, and I don't mean attending workshops. Whether you attend a workshop or conference is fine, but a lot of the fellows have thought, well, one of the best ways to bring this practice of better software, practice of interdisciplinarity, practice of helping people work together who have natural synergies but might not know it, has been promoted by the fellows. There's a fellow, Derek Groen, at the moment, actually yesterday and today, is running a paper hackathon. So his idea was to bring the EPSRC eScience 2020 fellows together with software developers on a set of projects to not just hack code, but also to produce a paper, which we thought was very exciting. And there'll be no doubt a write-up of this, and that will be available hopefully in the next few weeks on the Software Sustainability Institute's website. Coming up next week is the ClinStat workshop by Liberty Foreman, who's a fellow at UCL, and she's really bringing together clinical fellows, people who know about data from hospitals, with data analysts, because one group is good at collecting data and asking questions, and the other group is good at having the rigor with which to analyze that data and advise the clinical fellows on how best to put together a reproducible analysis. This is also exciting to the extent that another group at UCL have decided to take this on as something they're going to sustain. So that was good to see. There's also Neuroscience 2014, which is a rather large conference attended by over 30,000 people. I'm not saying 30,000 people are going to attend this whisker tracking developers workshop, but it was an idea by fellow Robin Grant to run such a workshop to try and bring the developers together with the problem holders to see if they could make the tools work more seamlessly together, which the researchers are using. So these types of workshops, if they're in people's plans and they can think about running these types of workshops, we will view them favorably. Obviously, you have to be realistic. It has to be realistic. One of the things which is mandated for the fellows to attend, which they enjoy attending, is the collaborations workshop. The collaborations workshop brings together researchers, software developers and funders and publishers and managers and lots of people that are involved in research and software and research. It's a non-conference activity, which means there's lots of presentations and discussions. It allows people to introduce their particular work area, allows people to meet new people, and some people have been able to hook up and have got ideas for taking forward collaborations through the workshop, to express ideas, identify research problems, and also to explore particular topics and domains in reproducible research. And also this time there was a coding aspect, and there was a very successful hackathon. In fact, something like 96% of those who attended said they would like to approved of the hackathon, and everyone who attended the collaborations workshop, from feedback, either said they would come again or they may come again. Nobody said they wouldn't like to come again. It's pretty good there was about 60 people in attendance, 64 people, and we got half of them gave feedback. Anyway, this was at the Oxford E-Research Centre. So the focus was very much on reproducible research, and this we also led to a position paper being presented at the Trust 14 conference, which was in Edinburgh in June. And you can look at that bit.ly link, and that's a blog post about the outcomes from the workshop, and a link to those papers. We are running a collaborations workshop 15. And it'll have a similar structure. It'll be about the similar time, towards the end of March 2015. Okay, I mentioned Mike Croucher before. Mike Croucher is what we call a continuing fellow. We have a saying: once a fellow, always a fellow. So in your inauguration year, you'll have your 3K to spend. After that, you have access to a communal pot of money to spend, which is about 6K. And we also gives an opportunity for us to ask your opinion, for you to network. We might pay for you to attend something or organise something with us if you can, if you are able to. And your influence continues. Some of the fellows, Mike, for example, has continued as an open call reviewer, and so the win-win continues. We also hold a 6 monthly meeting with the fellows, approximately halfway through the fellowship, and it gives a chance for new ideas and information exchange, for people to share what their plans are and also renew what their plans are. I mean, this year we really had a focus on reproducible research and planning. It really helped people to plan for their domains. Some people wanted better skills. Some of the fellows wanted better skills for how to influence their domain. And it gives feedback and discussion on the program. To give a couple of quotes from the feedback, we need to move beyond the spreadsheet was one such statement, and also if there's no code, there's no paper, which was expressing one of the attitudes from a computational statistics domain, which is perhaps aspirational for some of the other domains. Okay. So we've covered the Fellows 2015. We've covered the Fellows 2014. Now I'm going to be handing over to our Fellows in turn, starting with Alexandra Simpela, who will be discussing her experiences of being a Fellow. So I'm just going to set that up. So
okay, can you all hear me?
yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, okay, good stuff. And can you hear me clearly?
I can hear you clearly.
Good, better than yesterday. Okay, hello everyone. My name is Alex Simpela, and I got one of these SSI fellowships last year. So I want to talk to you how I do this from a software trainer's perspective, which is quite unusual because I can't write code. So if we go to the second page, I want to introduce myself briefly. So I'm a computational chemist and I work with software. So I'm actually a support person. I teach you how to work with this software and actually do some troubleshooting on a scientific level, and if the software doesn't work. We teach via graphical user interfaces, and we can start things from the command line and use simple scripts or editors to edit our input files. So we don't do really coding from our end. I'm personally using shell scripts if I really have to. I use Perl quite badly because I had to at some point. And I did 6.5 years postdoc in quantum chemistry and atomistic modeling. And then I worked for a software company where I trained the software for 5 years. I can't write code, so how do I dare to teach software, and what got me actually to the Software Sustainability Institute? Well, I can use it. I'm curious how things work, and I work on the interface between the developer and the user. Ideally, if you want to use how software works, you go into the source code, which is sometimes not possible because the software has intellectual property, so you can't have it, or you don't understand it. So we need an intermediate that kind of like teaches you what the software does and translate enough what the software does into what the user needs. So I translate what I learned from a developer into something my trainee understands. So I go for the application, not so much for the creation of the software. I'm working now for the National Service for Computational Chemistry software. I'm based at Imperial College in London, and I teach people how to use this software. I know about several codes where I can do this. Usually we spend some time in teaching people how to translate their problem into something a software code can understand and actually produce some outcome. We support them if things go wrong, and we are the people they would happily ask you, can I support kind of like, can I get your input file and the output file? Because we usually get questions, the software doesn't work. So this is us asking you for both files so we can see what's going on. And we also look into scientific workflows to make sure our people are scientifically sound. So how did I meet the SSI? I attended an UKE infrastructure academic user community forum. It was one of these ideas where we thought we might fit in with our service, but not quite. And this is where I heard a talk by Simon Hattrick, who was talking about the Software Sustainability Institute and training in this particular setting. So I asked him some questions during his talk, and we went for a chat over coffee. And then I found out they're organizing a workshop for e-infrastructure trainers at Daresbury. And this actually allowed me to link training and software sustainability. I'll talk about this in a bit more. So my project was, by getting to know the SSI, I learned about the software carpentry, and I was introduced to Greg Wilson, who is actually running and who invented basically these courses. And we decided, okay, let me investigate what the impact of software carpentry is on its participants. So, for example, I will do interviews, which I do live. I meet people, or I do it online, and I study with 36 questions what the long-term impact of this software carpentry is on people. I'm also very interested in the time-saving aspect. There is no way, if I give you free food at a nice conference location, you easily may go. People are interested in spending 2 times and actually get something out at the end. So we study quite heavily the usefulness. And also, like, can a course be a mind opener? Because when you attend a software carpentry, you're busy for 2 days, and then of course you're on your own. So we need to plant the seed in you, which you then use to open your mind and get access to other training, for example, to other knowledge. And this is what we want to study as well. Can a short-term learning event actually function as a mind opener? And this is what I do in my fellowship project. So I want to tell you something about the fellowship application process I went through. And one thing was quite noticeably, I didn't need a reference from my boss. So I could fill in the form quite happily by myself. You will be asked a lot of questions about yourself and how you can represent the Software Sustainability Institute. And the interesting thing was I wasn't able to do the live interviews because my manager decided we have to have a managerial meeting at the very same time. But the people found a solution online, and that was actually quite interesting. And I will recommend you, should you go to the process and be invited for an interview, interaction is key. Network, speak, be proactive, be observational. Yeah? And also, like, this is what the team will do to you. They will watch you, how you actually behave, react in a particular situation. So this is how they will make their mind up. It was a joint effort. So quite interestingly, all fellows work together. So the better you work together, the better is the competition actually. And that makes you actually in a good place to get one of these fellowships awarded. That, of course, how you are and what the project is about. I also was very impressed by the variety of professional background and age. So we had young people, they were students, and we had people, they reached kind of like retirement. So everybody is welcome wherever you come from. How did I profit? I met new people because I got to know all my co-fellows. The events are very nicely planned. You get a doodle calendar where you can pick out the best days for you. So our handlers do our best to get us all together. So that was quite good. So we met in Southampton. And I do like the collaboration workshop. The collaboration workshop happened in Oxford, the first one I was. And is a so-called non-conference, so you can contribute. So this is not something you sit there and people talk to you until 5 o'clock, so you can actually talk back and do something. I also met people within the software carpentry, and due to my social study, I meet a lot of people during my interviews, and I can learn a lot about them. How do they deal with software? What's going on? Being a fellow allows me to talk about something different because I always need my link to the developer. So now I know more about software, so I can actually talk to people. This is actually quite good. And I was invited to the structural bioinformatics training for Elixir. That's a movement which is around the EMBL in Kingston, and they try to put together some trainings for bioinformaticians. And I was invited there on a discussion job to give my experience to them so they can do the training better. So the networking is fantastic. You meet a lot of people. I profited to learn about the non-conference, so let people do the conference and don't invite big professors, nobody may care, for example. And what is very important is I fit in somewhere. So basically when I teach software, there is a bigger picture. So I'm part of this picture. And if you wish to fit in something, it gives you some sort of quality control, because you do know what quality is required from you to teach software to actually make it sustainable, because this is how my impact actually comes in. I'm more open now to things like reproducibility, which we need in our methods as well, because we're supposed to publish workflows in such a way people can reproduce them. And sustainability is important for us as well. And I can tell you, we won't support software which is not sustainable. So if, for example, the coda go away, the software hasn't been updated, there's a lot of mistakes, there is no quality control, we, for example, at the NSCCS will not support it. So this is some freeware, for example, we can't afford to look after because we can't keep up with all the bugs it has. So this is something very crucial when you have a provider that takes software from you. I learned about the research software engineer, that there is a movement to make these people known, to give them the value. So it's not just your buddy that writes some code which you can use. So it's actually a profession. It was quite interesting to see how software can be published, should be put into a repository where people can see it. Also, like, about contemporary software, what is going on now. what languages do people use. So this is actually quite important to advise our students when they look into programming, what should they do next, what is fashionable at the moment. I also was quite intrigued who uses software, for what they use software. So there is some places where software comes in. I never thought there was a possibility to do it. And also we have some interesting conversations at meeting where it's all about what is software. So for example, last time we came up with Excel is actually software, not just a spreadsheet, because you can write macros. So it is some program. And probably what I also learned was that one has to take care not to get stuck with software you like. So for example, maybe Excel is not what you need. You need to learn MySQL because your database just can't handle what you want to put in. So I think there should be also a movement, and we try to be contemporary. So not look down on a 20-year-old who says, that's new stuff I'm not interested in. I think it's very much important in every age to keep up with what is software doing now and what is contemporary, I think. My main profit was certainly by doing this to see how training fits in the better process. Because what I train is people not to look into how to write code and understand it from that perspective, but to use code, to be not scared of it, and to use it properly. I know what training is expected now, because we want to teach people how to think like somebody properly who uses the software. I also know now better who is there to be trained. So whom do I need to train? Who are these people? And I also see there is an exponential growth of knowledge in the software community, like what Shoaib showed before in publications. What happened? What we noticeably can see. But the knowledge transfer is only linear. I can't teach you exponentially. So we have to find out how we can fit in to lift people up to the level they actually need to be. So can I recommend it to you for the newbies following this webinar? Yes, it's a big red yes. I even have changed color for you because I can recommend it as there is room for you, whoever you are. There is growth. You will see individuality because people do different things, but in this individuality, you certainly will find a community. Okay, so that's me. So I hope I could give you an insight what the fellowship did to me, and hopefully I could recommend to you to go on with your application. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Alexandra. If you've got any specific questions on what Alexandra's mentioned, then hopefully you get a chance to cover those in the Q&A. Next up, we have fellow Dr. Mark Basham.
Hello. Can everyone hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Fantastic. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about what I did and how I got in with the SSI, and then what I'm actually doing with the money and the fellowship itself. So I work at Diamond Light Source, which is the big donut-shaped building in the picture there. And basically what we do there is we're a particle accelerator. We generate really, really bright light, and we use that in devices called beamlines. They're basically big rooms, and they do all kinds of scientific experiment. And the key thing is we do lots and lots of these types of experiments, and so my job is to make sure that the users at the end of the whole process, academics from all around the UK and the world, get the most that they possibly can out of the data that they're collecting, and can visualize that and can basically do the best type of experiment they can. So basically what we're trying to do here is get them as involved as possible with the process. So there's only one of me and there's lots and lots of beamlines, so trying to make them do as much of the work as possible is very good. And this was one of the things that picked up my initial interest in the SSI, because when we started sort of looking at the things that SSI was interested in, things like repositories and trying to make sure that the people are basically using test-driven development and those kinds of things, they all very, very much were the types of things we were trying to get our users and our beamline staff to do. So where I really found out about the SSI was when I started looking at, we've got a project that we call Dawn, which is the main piece of software that me and the team of people I work with work on. And this piece of software, we were quite proud of it and the way that it worked. And when the SSI, I think, pretty much started up, they sent around a questionnaire that asked people to fill in to sort of rate what their software project was like, to see if we'd want to get involvement and help from the SSI. And when I basically filled in that questionnaire, we scored reasonably well on it, so we were quite happy. But that made sense because our team was, scientists like myself, but also software engineers, so we were hoping we were getting most of the stuff right. But what we found was that in a couple of years we were very interested in improving the collaboration of our projects and improving various different aspects. And actually we then worked with the SSI, which is why the diamond logo was on one of the earlier slides. We got involved with that part of the project and had some really good interactions with the SSI, and they've produced a couple of reports that really helped us with making our software much easier to collaborate with for other people. The other sort of half of my job, a lot of the stuff I do with Dawn and with the GUIs is very useful, but a lot of what I do is actually making all of the data processing that we all the data that we collect at Diamond process faster, and I use a lot of Python for that. Python's really where what I'm trying to do with with the fellowship money that I've got, and when my fellowship comes in, because I think Python is an excellent language for scientists to use. Bonuses, it's free, very extensible. There's a lot of stuff you can do with it, but it's also very, very easy to fall into a lot of the pitfalls that you can normally get into with software development, of just writing a bit of code and not really worrying about where it's going to go in the future. So what I'm doing with the SSI Fellowship, in terms of the money part of it, I'm working really heavily on trying to get a Python community of practice going. Now, so I've already run the first of what I'm hoping to be 4 sessions of this. The first one was reasonably well confined with Diamond, with a few external people invited. The next one that I'm intending to run at the end of October is for not only Diamond staff, but also for all of the staff on the RAL site. So where we are, there's neutron sources, laser facilities, there's the space agency, there's a computing resource. Trying to get all of those people together, working basically in a meeting where they can all chat about the type of work they're doing, and can hopefully give each other good ideas about how to improve what they're doing with Python. Now, the main idea of these communities of practice is to try and get as big a community together as possible, so that everybody can learn from one another. And that's actually where the SSI has really helped me, because if I was running this purely as a Diamond-only project, Diamond would quite happily fund or provide me with the room. They may well provide me with food, tea and coffee and lunch maybe for the delegates, but they almost certainly wouldn't provide that for such a big community. So they wouldn't provide that for all of the people at RAL, for example. It would be more specifically for the Diamond staff, because that's what they would be interested in. Whereas by being a member of the SSI and having that additional funding, it's quite easy for me to extend the projects out to a larger group. And the hope will be that the 3rd and 4th of these community of practice events will be opened up to the much wider community if I can deal with transport and getting things like that working. So, as I say, the SSI input there has been really, really very valuable in being able to broaden the outlook of the events that I wanted to run and bring as many people as possible together. Those events themselves are very much broken into 2 kinds of sections. We do some Ignite talks at the beginning of those sessions, so that everybody has a chance for their 5 minutes of fame to briefly describe what they're doing, the science they're doing. And when you've got maybe 10 or 15 scientists all talking about that from completely different backgrounds, it's very, very interesting. And in fact, I deliberately picked up on that because of things like the collaborations workshop, where it's such a diverse community of different scientists all using software. You get to hear about so many different things. The ideas that come forth from that are really, really good. The reason I brought that up is because I think it's very important. The collaborations workshop, the other workshops that the SSI runs, are invaluable for the fellows to go to, and even if you're not a fellow, I think they're invaluable workshops to go to, just to see who else is working in the areas that you're in and around the areas you're working in. The second thing we do on that is is this chap here, which is the cyber dojos, and they're very much focused on trying to help people out. So it's all about writing code that you can throw away at the end of the day, and it's very, very useful because you don't have the worries of the fact that the code that you write is going to be used in your publication, or it's going to be used maybe on the beamline and be used by hundreds of people. You don't have to worry about that at all. You just throw away the code at the end, and it's really, really nice to sort of a liberating experience to just code for essentially the experience of it, doing exercises if you like. So these days were very, or the first day I ran was very, very successful. We got very good feedback from it. In the initial interview, you get asked some questions to answer in the presentation, and one of those questions was, what would I change? My opinion is that that scientists think they can't code. I think there's loads of people who believe they can't code for various reasons. And one of the things that I wanted to do was trying to address that. And what I found is that, once again, having the external aspect of the SSI, not only my current job, but having that SSI fellow working at the same time, is very, very useful for that. So, for example, a couple of conferences I've been to recently, you can pop your SSI t-shirt on. It's very convenient. People start asking you about it because they're interested. You can point them to the website. You can give them some information, and it's amazing how many people I've met at various conferences who really would like to do better things, but don't think it's really something that they can do. And so, by just simply telling them they can do that, and that they've got the options to do that, and that there's no reason that they can't do all of these lovely engineering things that that are available for them. It really improves the way that I think that a lot of people think about the code they write, but also just potentially makes them aware of things that are happening. And as I say, that's really convenient because you've got that little label that you've got associated with you, that you're an SSI fellow. It gives you that little bit of extra ability that what you're saying is actually backed by something reasonably sensible. So I'd say that's another big bonus of being one of the fellows if you get the opportunity. And I think that's pretty much all I wanted to say, but thank you very much. Hopefully that was reasonably useful.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Mark. That was excellent. Again, if you've got any questions for Mark, then please store them up, and opportunity to ask them later on. So we're moving on to Alexander Konovalov, who is from the University of St. Anne's, and he will be giving his experiences and insight. Alexander.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
I think need to be a little bit louder.
Okay, 1 second. I know where it will do. Great. Is it better now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so hello, everyone. My name is Alexander Konovalov, and I'm a research fellow at the Center of Interdisciplinary Research in Computational Algebra at the University of St. Andrews. So by training, I'm a mathematician. I did my PhD almost 20 years ago in Ukraine, and my area was pure mathematics. But I was always interested in computer-aided mathematical research. And this led me to my field, which is computational algebra. So what is computational algebra? It's an interdisciplinary field which lies between mathematics and computer science. And it's actually different from computer algebra. Computer algebra is more on the side of continuous mathematics. And in computational algebra, we are using computers to solve different problems in discrete mathematics. So, for example, how to solve Rubik's Cube in smallest possible number of moves. So the tool which we are using for this is called GAP. Let me go to next slide. So GAP is an open source software project. The name GAP stands for Groups, Algorithms, and Programming. And this is a system which is used for research and teaching in more than 2,000 sites worldwide, for areas ranging from abstract algebra and combinatorics to physics and chemistry. So I am both a user and a developer of this system. And besides being involved in projects on parallelization of this system, I also have roles such as release management, regression testing, communicating with users and contributors. So this is the community with which I'm engaged, and therefore, when I heard about the call for SSI fellows last year, I became very interested in representing this community to SSI and also bringing the knowledge which I can get from SSI back. And then, moreover, GAP is used in experiments and papers, and this means that reproducibility matters quite a lot for this community. So you see the plot that we have more than 2,000 citations, for example, in MathSciNet, which is a database of reviews of mathematical publications by American Mathematical Society. And then, incidentally, last year, a colleague of mine from St. Andrews, Ian Gent, came with a recomputation manifesto. So this is a preprint which is available from arXiv, and there is also a blog post on Software Sustainability Institute website about key principles of this manifesto. And then we say that it should be as easy to reproduce a computational experiment as to reproduce a chemical reaction from a textbook by mixing baking soda and lemon juice in your kitchen. But of course, we know that in practice, this is not always happening. So I built my SSI fellowship around these activities on promoting recomputation in the community of discrete computational mathematics, and then not being also limited to the users of the GAP system, but also reaching users of other tools ranging from perhaps systems like Sage to theorem provers. So let me then just list several highlights of the first 9 months of my fellowship. So I started with taking a very long journey to Dundee. It's maybe 30 minutes by bus, where we had a Scottish Programming Languages seminar. So in particular, users of theorem provers were there. So I made a presentation about the computational manifesto, which is available on Figshare, on SlideShare. You can access it using the link below. Then there was a collaborations workshop in Oxford in March 2014, which was already mentioned by several speakers before. So in particular, what we did during the Hack Day, we assembled a team who provided a reproducible experiment. So we created a virtual machine with experiment from the area of computational linguistics there, and we made it available from VM Depot. So VM Depot is a community-driven storage of virtual appliances, which is supported by Microsoft Azure. So you can download this machine if you have even a trial account with Microsoft Azure, and you can rerun your experiment there, and you can check that the results are valid, and you can look at the scripts and modify that experiment. So you can grab virtual machine and try to modify it to use to run your own experiments as well. So then after that, I went to Manchester to Microsoft Azure training course that was run by Kenji Takeda. And that was very useful course because we are using Microsoft Azure in the computational project. And also I started to use Microsoft Azure Cloud for regression tests using Jenkins continuous integration. So again, this is already mentioned mentioned earlier, win-win situation, that a fellow brings something to SSI and the fellow receives many useful hints and resources, makes new contacts. So, for example, the next meeting which we had was fellows meeting in Southampton. So we had 2 days of very productive discussions there. And one of the most important, I think, things was the summer school. We organized a summer school in experimental methodology and computational science research in August. And then you see that people on the paper, they are basically almost all co-authors of a paper which was produced during this school. So during this week, we were working on a reproducible paper, and at the end of the week, it appeared as a preprint on arXiv. So you can look at it here using this hyperlink. And we just yesterday we uploaded the next version, which will appear online on Monday. So we made a paper which is open, executable, and reproducible. So we provide a virtual machine using which you can build our paper. And actually, it's not just the LaTeX file. It contains part which is executable. So it uses R using so-called SV format. So the paper is actually recomputable. And using this virtual machine, you can build the paper and perform all computations are there. So this is our reply to the following tweet. So last year, there was a popular hashtag on Twitter about overly honest methods. And one of them was, you can download our code from URL supplied, and good luck downloading the only postdoc who can get it to run, however. And then our reply is that if you install VirtualBox and Vagrant, which are two tools, then you can just call the following commands, which actually will fit into a tweet. Make a directory, change to the directory, Vagrant init URL of the virtual machine, and Vagrant up. And in less than 5 minutes on your laptop, you will be able to build the paper. So, and then finally, I went to the meeting which we had in Aachen in August. This is the meeting of GAP developers, at which we have very productive discussions, and we are thinking about opening up the GAP development, because at the moment it's not yet public, despite we are using many tools which can easily make it public, like version control and issue trackers and so on. So besides that, there were many other interesting things during my fellowship, like I attended some local events in St. Andrews where I was able to speak about SSI. I joined University Policy Group on research staff development. Sorry? On research staff development, where I would like to speak about the necessity of software development training for researchers. I learned about research software engineers campaign, received invitation to review a paper, and I started to use Twitter. So it's exciting to be a fellow. You can meet new people, you can get useful advices, you can attend interesting events, and being a fellow is mutually beneficial for SSI and the fellow. And also you are a fellow forever, so I'm looking forward to ongoing collaboration. So I would encourage you very much to apply for the fellowship, and I wish you good luck with your applications.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Alexander. Now we have Leanne Wake, who will be giving her presentation and her experiences as a fellow. Leanne, welcome, and let's hear from you.
You have been. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I thought I'd just give a little bit about the background where I'm, what I've done, where I've come from. I am a research fellow at Northumbria University. I'm 30. Those are my qualifications, you can see there. And as this is a software fellowship which you're all applying to, I thought I'd give you a little bit about my background in this area. I call it my computing history, where, well, my software skills are actually quite criminal. So first of all, I was thrown in the deep end using Fortran when I was 19. With no prior command line experience, so losing the use of a mouse was like losing a limb. I was able to forget about Fortran for a year while I did my geological mapping dissertation, but then I had to get back into it in the form of a C-level code, which helped produce my master's and PhD, and I'm still working with this code today. And I would say, indeed, being with the SSI, it's actually opened me up to particular services and groups with whom I can work with to hopefully update the code from what it has been. And as you can see, the last line on the slide says I have survival rather than sophisticated software skills, which don't necessarily lend themselves to sustainability, but obviously with the SSI, I'm hoping to actually improve on that. Okay, next slide. So you're probably asking yourself, why a fellowship from the SSI? Well, until I went to a glaciology conference in Cambridge in November 2013, I wasn't aware of the SSI, and to be quite honest, I didn't know I needed the SSI. It was actually sold to me rather than me seeking out funding. And after talking to a fellow of previous years, I quickly discovered that it would provide a good opportunity to work in a group of, well, like-minded people to tackle the problem of reproducibility and quality of software and data that we work with day in and day out. And obviously, if you've seen the SSI's website, the Institute has got a flexibility to attack this problem from different angles. In the next slide, I'll explain the route my fellowship has taken. And it offers friendly, interactive meeting spaces, whether it be online or at away days, and an approachable community that you can, bounce your ideas off. So with the last slide, the last part of the slide here, I'm not assuming the demographics of the audience currently online. But you might be asking yourself, why would the SSI choose a geographer, historian, social scientist, or even a technophobe as a fellow? And the simple answer to that is, no matter where you are, you find yourself in academia, or if it's not academia, if it's industry, or using software, and you're thinking, I know a way I can make this experience better. And that's how my fellowship sort of was born. So I came up with the thought that you cannot foster sustainability in data and software if it's not accessible to as many people as possible. So as SSI is leading the crusade to improve software sustainability, and indeed this year a curriculum has been introduced in primary schools to start young kids off in code, but however there are sort of lost generations in domains who would probably like to learn how to code and cannot. And there are people who can code, but they can't necessarily teach. And I would say I sit about halfway between the two. So my fellowship idea was to develop an education resource related to specific programming languages and targeted at those who are really just starting out to learn coding, maybe those who are learning it, well, I would say by ear, but by hand, I would say, rather than being taught, and which facilitate solutions or even explanations to common problems experienced. And to do this, if you look on the left-hand side, I attended a course called Introduction to Fortran, which was held at the Culham Centre for Fusion Energy in Oxfordshire. And that gave a good insight on how code is taught to beginners, because it's not just like a normal lecture, it's actually a different language. You're trying to get people to speak. And I'll be producing a blog post on this next week. And next month, again, funded by SSI, I'll be attending a software carpentry instructors course, and that is in Norwich, I believe. And both of these are going to help to address points 1 and 2, which I can actually interview the people who are learning there and find out what sort of problems they're coming across with their teaching, or how can the educational environment be made better. But then my time spent with the SSI has thrown up a couple of things which weren't necessarily in my original proposal. Obviously, because you need to make your code usable, sustainable, and portable, we're quite busy, and we need to ask ourselves, do we have the time to make this sophisticated software? And I thought I would think of, well, what are the advantages of this? But I thought, are there any sticks being offered as opposed to carrots? So I'm actually going to AGU this winter, and I'm in the process of organising a town hall meeting there. And I will be presenting the results of a questionnaire, which I hope to send out to journal editors to try and start up a discussion of, well, in my domain, of how to increase awareness of data sustainability and software. So I'll be asking sort of questions like, how many journals make it compulsory to submit code along with manuscripts in the submission process, and if they don't, why not? And I hope to have the end of the meeting, I'm aiming to get out of it a brainstorming session where how can code submission be facilitated within journals. And all this feeds into the ideal of the SSIs to make code sustainable and open to as many people as possible. So yeah, the lines at the bottom of the slide are the additional side effects. So obviously your fellowship, you do get to travel to conferences. I've also been to Grenoble to chat about how we can make a big data bank of ice sheet data. PG HEP, that actually relates to a qualification I'm actually going through at the moment at university, in which I actually get a qualification as a lecturer, and I have to produce a portfolio of teaching, and I'm hoping to actually use computing to non-experts as geographers as an example in that. And also the meetups are absolutely brilliant social occasions as well. Finally, I have been asked to say a little bit about the application process, and overwhelmingly it was a positive experience. As you probably already know by now, some of you have gone online, you'll have seen the application form, and it's not the worst thing you've ever completed. And the good thing is that if you look at the form, the assessment criteria are non-domain specific. They're not targeted at people who are good at computers or people in the computing sector. It was also a friendly experience, and some of the assessment day techniques actually I found are going to be transferable to my classes for teaching. So I won't say which ones because obviously that gives the day away. And I would say that my confidence has grown with respect to sharing opinions on subjects where I'm not an expert. Obviously, you've heard some fellows talking who are that's their job, it's software. It isn't mine. I use programming languages to to make models. So having conversations with them has actually increased my confidence to offer ideas on, how to improve software in my area. Negatives, without giving too much away, there's very little you can do to prepare for the selection day, aside from what Shoaib in the selection panel will tell you if you're successful at stage 1 of the interview. But as every negative, you turn into a positive, and thinking on your feet obviously brings out the best in people, and this is one of the things you'll have to do on the selection day. So good luck on your application. I would say for what you get out of it, even just the event that you might or might not get invited to, if you're not successful at that, you'll get a lot out of it, and good luck.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much, Leanne. Again, if you have questions for Leanne, you'll be able to ask later. Okay, so time for me to give an overview of the Fellowship Program 2015. So this is more about essentially what we're looking for and the process. Okay, so why do we have fellows? Well, I think it's become quite clear from presentations that we've heard what the importance is of fellows and what they get from this. But the Institute itself, we are focused on better through better software. So we need to know what's happening in the domains, what the important pieces of software are, what the important problems are, what the scale of the problem is. This very much helps guide our consultancy engagements, our policies, and future community work. And also, we have quite strong links to the research councils. So it helps, and often the government will put out a request for comment on things like infrastructure and data and skills, and it allows us to not just answer those from our own perspective, what's in our head or what's in our little group, but from the people who are closely aligned to us, which are the fellows. So we also like supporting like-minded people, and it's also a way of better promoting sustainable software practice, because we believe that better software sustainable practice is actually best supported from the domains themselves. And we believe that people at each career stage also have something to offer. Energy, wisdom, techniques, whatever career stage. Okay, so we're looking for people in these career stages or equivalents. So you could say from the whole broad spectrum. But PhDs, no one below PhD, but from PhD onwards, and new RAs, this is early career. And lecturers and established RAs and people who have other fellowships are mid-career and late career, senior RAs, senior lecturers, readers, professors, etc. So what are we looking for? Okay, there's a scary big list. So we're looking for people across the RC UK strategic areas. We're not focused on any particular area. So we have a particular interest in people funded by EPSRC, but this is no means exclusive. In previous years, we've had lots of people funded through, who are traditionally funded through NERC or Wellcome Trust or BBSRC. So we'd like people to be able to identify software in their domain, and people who use software in their research or build software tools, maybe people who've been involved in technology standards, or develop their own codes, and that they promote software in their own domain. They're naturally promotional about these things, or they blog about software related matters. And we can work together to determine whether and how the Institute could help and how we could help you. You'd want to be a champion really of improved software practice in your domain, and one thing that you need to be is an excellent communicator. You either enjoy blogging or tweeting, or you enjoy public engagement, or you enjoy talking to other people. You have very much a social personality. We do measure your contribution towards the research community in the application form, but this is not just papers. It can be presentations, it can be data sets you made available, it can be data models, it can be software, it can be standards, or it can be a particular role that you've played, or for example. In terms of time, we are looking for people who have got time to commit. Approximately, very approximately, it's about 8 days in the year. We hope that this is a win-win in terms of, form filling and writing reports and attending events like the mid-year meeting and the collaborations workshop. But we hope there's a strong overlap in there from these events. Okay, so what do we expect from the early career people? Well, like I mentioned, that they have the time and inclination to contribute, that they want to travel to conferences, enjoy meeting people, gathering intelligence about software in their domain, and they use the platform as to bring it to the SSI. And they promote the Institute and its mission. It's interesting that Mark mentioned about the T-shirt. We've had when you become a fellow, you get issued an SSI T-shirt. We do ask you your size. And it can become an interesting talking point. And it's quite democratic in the sense that even from our principal investigator through our co-investigators, they like wearing the T-shirt at conferences. So it's the same T-shirt. Obviously, we'd like you to attend we mandate that you attend the collaborations workshop, unless there's a specific reason you can't. And optionally, we hope that you're interested in perhaps a training or workshops in your own space. So for the mid-career people, we're looking more at workshops and bringing together communities of practice in your domain, perhaps contributing towards policy, the promotion of software careers where you are, or the policies. How are you supporting women in science, for example? Even if you're not a woman, how are you promoting that in your department? Are there any specific things that you because we've got a number of things that we're trying to achieve. You could help with the review, for example. A number of fellows have helped with open call projects. These are the projects where the SSI offers a certain amount of time and expertise. And we've asked the fellows in the past who've got particular experience to help us with review. Also, the fellows very much this year, as was the case last year, the fellows choose the fellows. So as well as the Institute members being on the review panels for the shortlisting and for the selection days, whether on the face-to-face selection day, the fellows take a strong role in this. And also, there's a possibility of attending some of our internal meetings if there's mutual benefit. People who are more senior or late in their career, it's we'd like to support them to chair kind of networking events and promote the institute, perhaps co-review some outputs as well. From everyone though, we expect we're open to suggestions. These things that I've mentioned here are indicative. So things like, you want to attend conferences and workshops, you want to perhaps run jobs, are interested in software carpentry, maybe you want to do something else. I mean, in previous years, fellows have got together themselves to run a town hall meeting. Leanne mentioned the AGU, which Annual Geophysical Union. It attracts about 25,000 people. Obviously, not all of those go to a particular town hall, but it's a huge meeting in Earth system science. And if people want to do something similar, they aligning with other fellows or with other fellows from previous years, then we could be very supportive of that. Or you might have some ideas of your own, and we're very open to ideas. What we make a commitment to doing is to listen. If you've got a suggestion, we won't dismiss it out of hand. We will discuss it with you. We might call other experts in the SSI if you have a policy idea or a technical idea, to be responsive, and to basically to deal with you as one of the team. So there's no aspect of them and us. We do deal with the fellows as members of the team. And also try and action the intelligence that you bring us. If you bring us some ideas or some things that you think we should do try to do the follow-up. And we try to support your ideas and your work as a fellow. We try to be fair and flexible where possible. In previous years, people have, there's certain situations in which we needed to be flexible about what we would pay for, and we were. And you have a dedicated handler with a backup person. Okay. What are the benefits? Well, there's benefits to each career stage, which I'll mention, but what are the overall benefits? Well, it very much, what fellows have said to me, it gives them a platform. Otherwise it's somebody who's interested in software in their domain, but they've got a feeling that, well, it's just them in a room, in a team. But it gives them a platform and a community where they feel empowered to speak about software practice in their domain and improving software practice in their domain. And it allows them to see what others in their domain, others who have got a similar attitude but in different domains are interested in. And it also helps them to identify the gaps in their knowledge, either in tools, in practices, in thinking, or in their own personal development in terms of how they're able to communicate, to become a better communicator, to become a better influencer. For the early career stage, there's obviously they can attend more conferences, present their work, that raise their profile. They can identify software in the domain, have their opinion heard. We had a number of PhD people, because what you have to remember is we're focused on people who are UK based, so it doesn't matter nationality, it matters that you're a UK based researcher. So we've had a few American PhD students in the past who are self-funded, so they didn't have, they're already on a quite tight budget, so they didn't, but this allowed them to become to allow them to attend things that they normally wouldn't be able to attend, to run workshops which they normally wouldn't be able to attend, to increase their profiles in their communities. So very much, it's important at this career stage. It's important for those at the mid-career stage as well. Some of them, might be dedicated researchers, might be looking more at doing teaching. If they're not going down the academic track but want to stay on the purely research track, even then allows them to improve their opportunities to speak and to communicate effectively. It gives them a better visibility in the institution. Also gives them perhaps some publishing opportunity. In terms of visibility, what's happened in a couple of groups is that because the person's empowered to speak about software and software practice, and they learn about the resources that are available from the institute and some of the people that are notable in the software and research space, they become a conduit for their research group people tend to come to them to learn about things, or to find out, well, I'm going to approach this, what should I do? And in a sense, they become somewhat like mini consultants. This is also useful for your reputation, useful for your experience, and including a way of increasing the quality in your research group as practice. More senior people, again, we'd like to promote them and push them to be thought leaders in the area, get a platform to influence national policy. One of our fellows, Stephen Eglin, who wasn't able to make it today, he's been invited by the funding councils to give his opinion on software and software development in that domain, and very much because of his platform as a fellow, he felt more empowered to make a contribution, and knew that it would be heard more clearly. So what's the timeline? Well, as you know, applications are already open for the fellowship. The webinar is happening now as we speak. Applications will close at 5 p.m. On Wednesday, the 1st of October. We're quite strict about that. And then by Wednesday the 22nd, you'll have the shortlist announcement. If you're successful, then there'll be a face-to-face selection day on the 10th of November here at Manchester, where you'll have a number of reviewers, and they'll be reviewing how you present your plans and how you can discuss things, how you discuss topics. I won't say too much about that yet. Then on the 27th, there's offers to fellowship, and part of the offers is you'd have to provide some information about yourself and agree to certain terms and conditions. They're not onerous terms and conditions. Everyone from last year who was offered a fellowship accepted, apart from one, and his reason for not accepting it was that he realized that he'd just started a lectureship and he didn't have the time, which was fine, which is absolutely fine. That's a good reason. And then Friday the 5th, there'll be an announcement, profile pages up, and news announcement, and then you'll be a fellow. Here's some links. The fellowship application program is information is available on that top link. But if you go to www.software.ac.uk, there's a banner there pointing to the fellowship. And then there's a link to the application and the FAQ. Okay, right. A touch ahead of schedule, but that's fine because Stuart wasn't able to make it. We can now go into the Q&A mode, and it's time for asking questions. So you can ask as an individual, and we might get specific individual answers if you got a question for one of the specific fellows or for myself. Otherwise, we might get different opinions just depending on what the question is. So if you would like to ask a question, then okay, thank you, Martin. If you'd like to ask a question, then please follow the instructions. You need to click on the File Question Request button. Or, okay, so we have Colin. I will give you voice. Just waiting to connect. Can you hear? Can't hear you at the moment. Hello, can you? Yes, we can hear you.
Good. Okay, so I have a question. The fellowships seem to be very focused on sort of domain scientists. To me, that seems at the exclusion of other sort of researchers and scientists, perhaps from within the field of computer science, software engineering, software development.
Mm-hmm. We are, I mean, speaking for myself, we've had some computer scientists in the past apply. We are interested in software being, the use of software in the scientific domain. Now, it's interesting that one of our fellows, Tom Crick, is actually from the computer science domain, and he was mentioning that some of the software practice in his area of research, which was to do with compilers and HPC, could actually benefit from the advice that is being promoted in to the other science domains by the institute. And I sit myself in a software in a computer science department, and speaking to some of the lecturers, they feel that the software skill, although there's a lot of theoretical knowledge being taught and there's practical labs, but in terms of the tooling for making your research more reproducible, version control, automation, these are skills which are also useful for computer scientists. So we're not closed to computer scientists.
Okay.
Okay. Next question. Do we have any more questions? Okay. So if you don't want to file a question using the file request button, the little wavy hand, then you can always type one into the main chat. Somebody's typing. It's interesting that some people give the impression that it was just for software computer scientists. Collins. Excellent. I mean, yeah, sure. I think I'll give voice to Mark. Mark, do you want to? Oops. Mark, do you want to comment on what Carl's saying?
Yeah, I think in terms of software engineer, I mean, that's basically what my job pretty much is now. And I'd say it's really useful. I think I found it really valuable meeting with the group of people and the rest of the fellows, because the level of software engineering and the experience they have is all very varied, and I learn a lot from them, and hopefully they learn something from me with some of the stuff that I've got. So I'd say that I would assume from the SSI's point of view, having a couple of software engineers or people with that background as fellows is always useful.
Absolutely. I mean, in previous years, we've had a mix. We've had some dedicated software engineers. I mean, one of the fellows, James Hetherington, he runs an outfit at UCL called the Research Software Engineer Team, which is all about researchers, which are all about software engineers helping researchers with actual research problems. Okay, Leanne.
Hello there. I'm actually going to ask a question. Right.
You're a regular fella.
It's on behalf of someone who I know is interested in and who can't attend this afternoon. It is with regards to the status of who can apply. It's someone who, as a bachelor, has got it years ago, but has been working within a research group at a university, basically setting up computing systems related to ArcGIS. And this was something he'd be interested in to develop himself. Would he be an appropriate candidate? He's not working towards like a PhD, or he's not an early career researcher or anything. He's basically a technician. Sorry, that's the word I wanted, a technician.
I think it's fine if he applies, if he makes a good case for why he thinks he should be a fellow, what his plan is. It all comes down to the plan, because a couple of years ago, last year we added a question about what's your plan as a fellow, and that really, as well as having some standing, the plan was a really important thing. But if his plan's good, we'll take that into consideration.
Okay, I'll pass that on. Okay.
Okay. So we have a question here from Alison K. I don't have coding skills, but working at iSchool and I collaborate with computer scientists to develop software for cultural heritage. Would my type of interest experience be sufficient? Yes, I'd say yes. We've had fellows in the past who are not programmers, but have been interested in software from a conceptual level in software in their domain, being promoting the use of software in their domain. So it's about impact. Are you in a position to improve the place of software in your domain, even though you're not a developer, but you're one of these people who kind of are interested, see what kind of problems it solves. You're aware of some of the codes that solve those problems, and you try to work on its promotion, and you're a facilitator and you bring people together. That's fine. That's perfect also. Okay, so one from Richard Johnson. I'm a researcher with a lab and a group where software is essential to what we do, but it's difficult to dedicate time to understand software. I just need to be able to get it to work. I just need it to be able to work for our applications. So I'm more likely to see here about interesting software that can fit into our data analysis chain and then recommend it to my group. I mean, this type of experience where you're focusing on your research group is fine, and that's how it starts. But you'll be amazed that you might be ahead of other people in your domain, or you might be able to influence people by promoting the software that's in describing your domain, promoting that software in your own domain to other people who are maybe not as advanced. So it all comes down to whether you feel like you've got that social personality, you've got that outreach aspect, and that is a different skill. And that skill actually feeds back into your research group, because you're actually better placed to promote the outputs of your research group, which actually aids your research. So yes, I'd very much encourage you to apply. What do you think of it? It seems a rather leading question. It is a leading question. So Collins asked, what makes a good answer to the question? What do you think of SSI and its goals? It seems to be a rather leading question. Obviously, you could say it's wonderful, but that wouldn't be a very good answer. You might say it's wonderful and why you agree with it, or you might say, you know what, you got it all wrong. It's not great. You're focusing on the wrong things. This is what you should be focusing on. This isn't important, which is equally an excellent answer, or maybe better answer. So we're not necessarily, we're looking for we're looking for your answer, whether it's agreement with a justification, or whether it's a disagreement with a justification. If you say, yeah, I like it, or not sure, or they're not the sort of answers that we're looking for. So Leanne said, in a summary, a good answer will involve the institute. I completely agree. So are there any more questions? So Richard has asked, great, thank you. No experience of developing, but research is so tied to software. I like software that can translate my research. Indeed. Again, people who are promoting software in their domain. That's also well within the scope. If any of the fellows would like to comment, or anybody else would like to comment on any of the questions, please let me know in the chat, and I can give you voice so you can comment. So feel free. to say that you like voice to comment on the question. Any of the questions? Okay, well, if there's no more questions, you can ask us questions by emailing us on info@software.ac.uk. This is on the Fellows page as well, if you have a particular question. And then we will get back to you. We've already had some questions about, like the questions we've been asked today about scope. Okay, right, well, thank you. Thank you for attending. Thank you for taking time to attend, especially the fellows, and Tim from the community team who's been helping run things. The slides from the presentations will be available on the SSI website soon. And a video of the webinar will also be available. So we're hoping perhaps by midweek next week, or maybe sooner, maybe by Monday or Tuesday, we'll be able to get the material up. So you'll be able to follow the webinar link from the Fellows page, from the Fellows program page, and replay if you'd like, or promote it to other people. Okay. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.